definitely know who they are. Make sure that they're receiving the proper diet. It's your responsibility to know what foods is appropriate for which diet. Your client is not going to be able to say to you, oh, I'm on a low-salt diet, I shouldn't have that sausage. You're going to need to do that yourself. Take the food off the tray and place it in front of the client. And you do this because it's more home-like. At home, you would not be sitting with a tray at the table. That looks more like fast food. We want to keep our settings as home-like as possible. Cut foods into bite-sized pieces. And make sure that everything is easily eaten. You'll need to butter the bread. You'll need to open all cartons, open wrappers. Assume that your clients can't do that. Season the foods to enhance the flavor. For people who would be able to answer, you could ask, would you like your eggs salted and peppered? If they can't, or you don't know what they like, you can either ask another caregiver that might know that person more familiarly, or season it just slightly. Season it as maybe you would want it done. Make sure that all the items are within a client's reach, so that they can reach their glass of milk, that they can reach their cup of coffee. Some clients will find too many things confusing, and they may need to have one item at a time. Might need to have only their mashed potatoes on the plate, or only their green beans. If they're getting 2 or 3 beverages, they get one at a time. During the mealtime, once you've set the client's trays up, if you are not assigned to feed a specific client, you'll need to be monitoring the dining room. And what this means is you'll walk around the different tables, and if you see clients who aren't eating, you can cue them, encourage them to eat. If someone's not eating, ask why they're not eating. Do they not like the food? Do they want something different? Maybe they need help getting started, and once they get started, they can finish eating themselves. Encourage socialization. That might stimulate someone's appetite. You could get your clients talking about the food. Don't distract them by talking about a football game or talking about something else, but keep it food focused and food or related. As the patient gets more demented as the process is going along, they may not be able to participate in conversation. They may need to focus solely on the task at hand, which is eating. And often people might need to be at a table where there's only 1 or 2 people at the table because anyone else around them is distracting them. We want to keep the dining room environment quiet and calm. Don't want to have loud music playing. If there's a TV in the dining room, it's probably not appropriate to have it on. Want to keep things very calm. Feeding clients. You want to try to allow the client to feed themselves as much as possible. So if you know that someone can handle a piece of bread, you might start with the bread and let them hold the bread themselves. Let them know what they're eating. Often with dementia, they might look at the food, but it doesn't quite process. So you need to let them know. You might remind them again, this is lunchtime, and you're having a bowl of soup. Try verbally cueing your clients. Mrs. Jones, pick your spoon up, put it into the carrots, bring it up to your mouth. That might be enough to get someone started eating. Or you might need to remind them to keep eating, or gently wake them up if they're falling asleep, or if they're getting distracted and looking away, bring them back to the plate. If you're going to be actually physically feeding someone, you need to be sitting and being at their level. And that's for 2 reasons. One, if you're standing above them and feeding, the spoon is coming in at the wrong angle and it would be easier for them to aspirate. The other is if you're towering over them, you're not sitting and communicating with them. And you need to be sitting and talking to them. Don't rush. You need to feed the client at their own pace. It might take them a very long time to chew a bite. If they're prone to holding food in their mouth, you need to be aware of that. Very important with dementia clients to give them 1 or 2 bites of food at the most, and then give them a sip of something to drink. And that should help if they do have any residual food. That will help bring it back down. Feed food separately. Don't mix them together. You wouldn't want to eat your green beans mixed with your ice cream. You want to keep the food separate. Sometimes with a dementia client, mixing foods together may be the only way to get them to eat. That would be indicated on their patient care plan, and that would only be used in specific situations. Typically, you would not mix their foods together. You might need to remind your client to chew and to swallow. Sometimes people will get the food in their mouth and they won't remember it's in their mouth, or they can't remember what to do with it. Sometimes if someone's having trouble swallowing and it's due to their dementia that they're forgetting to eat, that it's not due to a physical swallowing problem, rubbing their neck like this will stimulate the swallow. And again, you do it very gently. And you would say, now swallow, Mrs. Jones, while you're doing that. You need to be observing for any difficulty in swallowing. Clients with dementia are at a much greater risk for choking on foods and fluids than other people. And that's partly because they're not consistent in what they're doing. While our swallowing mechanisms are somewhat automated, we don't have to think about it. As a client is getting more and more dementia, their abilities to swallow are declining. Watch for pouching or pocketing of food. That's where they get the food, they might chew it up, and you might think they've swallowed it. But if their cheek is getting bigger and bigger, like that, they're not swallowing it, they're pocketing it. If after feeding someone, their voice gets gurgly or kind of watery sounding, or they cough after they eat or drink, that is an indication that they're swallowing wrong. And that would be a situation where you'd want to let the nurse know. You need to report and record how much a client has eaten when you're done eating, and report to the nurse any unusual behavior or information. Sometimes a client who normally eats well suddenly seems to have forgotten how to eat. And that can happen with a dementia client. Then you need to let the nurse know that. Report to your supervisor any change in appetite, intake, if someone is vomiting, if they're having difficulty eating, if they're complaining of nausea. Anything out of the ordinary needs to be reported to your supervisor. If a client ate poorly at that meal, let your supervisor know. They might need to have a snack offered to them that afternoon. Frequently, if someone doesn't eat well at that meal, they'll take something an hour or 2 later. You need to be aware of which of your clients are receiving diabetic or other special diets. Those people in particular, the nurse will need to know how much they've eaten. Also, most facilities will have a record of how much every client eats, especially of the clients with dementia, because they aren't able to tell. They're frequently not even able to say they're hungry between meals. So those people have food intakes and input and output records, and you'll need to follow those according to the policy of your facility. Feeding clients meal times is a big portion of your day, and there's a lot of steps involved, but it can be a very fun and rewarding time also. It's a time where you sit and get to interact with your clients. You're not rushing around doing things, but you get to sit and treat them as people, and I hope you enjoy feeding your clients as you continue on your training.